The number one high school team in the nation, Mater Dei, can wrap up the Trinity League Championship and the number one seed in the Southern Section Division I playoff Saturday with a win over Anaheim Servite. But the unbeaten Friars, so they're ready to offer the Monarchs their strongest test behind quarterback Noah Fifita and receiver Teotaroa McMillan, who drew 6 pass interference penalties when these two teams met last spring. Mater Dei sophomore quarterback Elijah Brown, 18 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Mater Dei head coach Bruce Rowlandson said, "This is going to be a great game, and it's coming your way Saturday." But we've got a few great games ahead of that one coming up Friday. Number 2, IMG Academy, 6-0 out of Bradenton, Florida, taking on East St. Louis. That game at Jackson State University, 6-0 versus 7-1 there. 6-0 versus 6-1. Number 24, St. John's out of Washington, taking on DeMatha out of Hyattsville, Maryland. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff as well. And 2 unbeatens, 9-0 Thompson, taking on 9-0 Hoover. Now that game kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. For more on the high school football scene as the season heads into that critical final month of play, let's now welcome in our 2 MaxPreps icons, Zack Poff and Steve Montoya. Let's start with that top game as Mater Dei looks to wrap up the league. You heard Rawlinson's comment there. What will be the difference in this game, Zack?
You know what it always comes down to in the Trinity League? It was the same thing when Mater Dei and St. John Bosco play. It's going to come down to who wins in the trenches. And I love Mater Dei's offensive line, but you look at Servite's front 7, they got some dudes too. You got Mason Graham, a 2022 Michigan commit. He's got 10 sacks this year. And then you also got one of the most underrated linebackers in 3-star Jacob Manu, who is a recent Arizona commit. So if Mater Dei's offensive line can kind of contain those 2 guys, I think things will go well for Mater Dei. But, you know, and then you flip things around, you look at Servite's offense. You brought up Noah Fifita. You know, this is a guy this year that has over 2,500 yards of total offense. And you brought up Teotaroa McMillan. He's a 4-star Oregon commit. The dude has over 900 yards receiving and 15 TDs already this season. And, you know, you brought up the 6 pass interference last spring when they played, and that was against Damani Jackson, who's out for the year for Mater Dei. So it's going to be important for a guy like Cam Sidney to step up because he's probably going to be the guy lined up against McMillan. So that's going to be the big matchup to watch. But, you know, Jeremy, you asked, it's going to come down to the trenches. And if I had to give my pick, I'm leaning Mater Dei. I'm going to go 41-27.
As long as we get a great game, that's all that matters there. That game coming up Saturday at 11 Eastern. The second best game of the week is in Hoover, Alabama. It was the last one we talked about on that board, 9-0 Thompson taking on 9-0 Hoover. What are you expecting to see in this one, Steve?
A great game and a defensive battle for sure. I mean, you got to start with Thompson because of how well they played this year. They've only allowed 26 points this season. They've shut out 5 different teams and they're averaging over 40 points a game. So if you're Thompson's a contender for a national title, but they're going up against Hoover, and Hoover knows how to win. They have 13 state titles in their history, and they're kind of the old school power. Last state title was in 2017, but like I said, 13 of them. And Thompson is this new school power, 2 straight state titles. So this, if you're looking for a real good game, this is a classic matchup in the state of Alabama. And man, this Thompson team has been really exciting to watch all season and what they've done on defense. So this is a good one in the state of Alabama.
Always love to see 2 undefeated teams going at it to stay unbeaten. Zack, another big-time game at Jackson State University. Number 2, IMG, puts their 6-0 record on the line against 7-1 East St. Louis. What type of game should we be expecting to see here?
This is, you know, one of my favorite matchups of the weekend because you get to see East St. Louis's 5-star wide receiver, Luther Burden, who recently just committed to Missouri. A lot of people probably thought he was going to Georgia, but he's staying home and going to Missouri. And we get to watch him go up against arguably the best secondary in IMG Academy. You got Dalen Everett, Clemson commit. You got 2024 Desmond Ricks. You got 2 big-time safeties. You got Keon Sabb and a bunch of other dudes in IMG secondary. So this is going to be a fun matchup to watch. You know, they call this dude Touchdown Luther because when he gets his hands on the ball, he usually takes it in for 6. So this is going to be a primetime matchup. And East St. Louis, you know, you brought up their 7-1. That 1L was, you know, a trip to SoCal when they played number 5 St. John Bosco. And they played Bosco pretty well. They ended up losing by a couple of scores. But this is going to be a fun matchup. But, you know, you look at IMG and their defense is loaded. Bear Alexander made his debut last week in their 24-14 win over St. Thomas More. And East St. Louis got a big-time offensive line, so that's going to be another fun matchup to watch. But I think IMG is going to be too much for East St. Louis. But it's going to be fun to watch Touchdown Luther go up against that secondary. So that's going to be a fun one, but I think IMG is going to pull this one out by about 3 scores.
He's saucy. Is that what you would call him, Zach? Saucy?
I just wanted to see if you'd bring it up, man. He's got that 10 for 10 on the Poff sauce meter, though, for sure, man. Luther, he's that dude.
10 for 10. Wow.
Yeah, he's a 10 for 10er.
All right. Steve, a huge matchup in the DMV area between WCAC rivals St. John's and DeMatha. It's a number 24 versus an unranked team. What is the appeal for you here?
The appeal is how good of football you find in the DMV area. So, Jeremy, if you're looking for something to do on your birthday tonight, just head there, drive around. You'll find some good football games, and including this one right here, St. John's and DeMatha. St. John's, they're undefeated right now. They're playing really good on the defensive side of the ball, only allowing 13 points total this year. But they've had trouble with DeMatha. I mean, DeMatha, in the last 25 games, DeMatha has won 20 of them, including last year. So St. John's wants to get after it. They have really good playmakers on both sides of the ball. On defense, or on offense, number 5, Jamar Curtis, he's a playmaker, and they got a couple big time studs on the defensive side of the ball. So the WCAC has an argument to say, hey, wait a minute, Trinity League out in SoCal, we have really, really good football. So if you want to party tonight, Jeremy, head to the DMV area. All
right, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, kickoff for that one. All right, let's finish off with some players to watch this week. Who are you keeping an eye on, Zach?
Hey, yeah, speaking of partying, I think this dude's going to put on a party tonight, and that's Chandler's 4-star wide receiver, Keon Graves. He's making his 2021 season debut. He dislocated his elbow right before the season started, but he's back making his debut. And Chandler, they're going for their 43rd consecutive dub, and I think he's going to have a big game tonight, and I think he's going to knock off a 6-0 Queen Creek team. They're going to need a big game from Graves, and I think he's going to go for 150-plus and 2 tutties, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I'm rolling with Gavin Sawchuk from Valor Christian High School in Colorado, the top-ranked team in that state, one of the best teams in the country. They're 8-0. Sawchuk is a 4-star Oklahoma commit. I mean, Valor Christian, the McCafferty brothers come from there, so that they have a good program there, and this is another team that's going to try to roll to a state title game, and he's averaging over 141 yards per game. He rushed for 20 TDs. In his last game, he got 2 carries, 79 yards, and 2 scores before he was pulled out because they were up so big, and then they had a bye, and now they're back. So I'm looking for the Oklahoma commit to go off.
2 great names to watch this weekend. They are the dynamic duo from MaxPreps, Zack Poff and Steve Montoya. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Enjoy the games. We'll chat with you next week. Zach and Steve and everyone else over at MaxPreps, I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job keeping you up to date on everything to do with high school football across the nation. Team profiles, schedules, results, highlights from big games. It's an incredible resource. You can check out their work over on MaxPreps.com.